Thank you all for tuning in one more time. I am your host, J. Michelle, and I'm just super excited today. The topic that we're going to be talking about is very near and dear to my heart. But beyond the topic being near and dear to my heart, I have a very special guest who is also near and dear to my heart, and that is my husband, Pastor Marquise Robinson. Thank you for joining me today.
I'm glad to be here, sweetie.
Absolutely. And you're looking very fine right now.
And you're looking beautiful yourself.
Well, thank you, sir. But we're not here to talk about that. We are here to talk about relationships and finances. And, I believe that this is very near and dear to my heart because I've seen relationships fall apart and crumble because of finances. Marriages that have been intact for years all end because misunderstanding and miscommunication about finances. So today, we want to come and we want to talk to you and share with you some of the things that we've done, some of the things that we know and we've implemented that work as it relates to relationships and finances. And so I think about our marriage. We are going on 10 years now in marriage. And I have to say that we do a phenomenal job as it relates to money, how we communicate money, how we spend money, and all those different things. And so for me, one of the first things that comes to mind when I think about how individuals can be successful in relationships as it relates to money is the importance of discussing finances from the very beginning. What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely, because as we know in any relationship, communication is key. So when it comes to the finances, you definitely got to be on the same page. You got to be able to communicate and talk with each other about what you're going to do with the finances, how you're going to handle the finances, how you're going to spend the finances, or whatever those things are. Communication is definitely key. You got to know what each other is saying and have an understanding, because that can lead to a lot of different issues and problems when there's no communication, especially with finances, because they say some of the top things that's to deal with breaking up marriages and relationships has to deal with finances. That's one of them. So you definitely want to be able to communicate when it comes to your finances.
Absolutely. And not just once you get married, because I think that that's a little bit too late to start talking about money. I believe that you need to have these conversations and dialogues when you're even thinking about
Definitely
coming together in a serious relationship. Of course, because we are Christians, we believe in being married before you live together, but we understand that that's not everybody's belief. And so before you get to the point where you're going to be in a serious relationship where you are like cohabitating, marrying, sharing responsibilities with someone, you need to talk about finances because you need to know what the other person values, what their thought process is as it relates to finances. Because the second thing that we've talked about that's important is alignment.
Yes.
And being in alignment as it relates to finances, those discussions need to happen up front.
Yes, you need to definitely make sure you're on the same page, going into into a marriage, let me say it like that. You got to be on the same page before you even get into that marriage, because you don't know the background of how people have been brought up. There's people that have been brought up in families where they handle finances a certain kind of way. And, you may not get with that. And so you got to discuss these things, talk about these things, because you said a key word. You said alignment.
Yes.
Alignment, when you're out of alignment, things begin to drift. Things begin to get off course. And so you definitely don't even want to go into a marriage and you're already out of alignment. Marriage has to deal with being one and coming together. That's what it should be about.
Yes.
And so you definitely want to be together when it comes to the finances, because you don't want to come in already drifting and already going different directions, because it's going to cause a strain on that marriage.
And when you think about marriage and relationships, there's already automatically this reality that you are bringing together two people,
Yes.
two individuals, two different cultures,
Yes.
two different backgrounds. Like, that's just a reality off the top. But then when you bring in the aspect of finances, so let's just take me, for example, what I observed growing up related to finances. And I often share the story about Christmas and how, first of all, I came from a working poor family. Now, my parents would probably disagree with that statement because, of course, nobody likes to utilize the term like working poor. But when you talk about being working poor, you're talking about someone who works, a job, and they basically make enough money to pay bills. You may be able to do some things, but you don't have financial freedom. And so I came from a working poor family. My mother was a cook. My father was a taxi cab driver. That's my background. However, that being said, every single Christmas, I kid you not, there were so many presents under the Christmas tree that they weren't even under the Christmas tree, y'all. They weren't even under the Christmas tree.
They were outside.
They were outside of the tree. They were all they probably took up. I might be exaggerating if I said a quarter of the living room, but it was a lot. It was this whole area that had nothing but gifts. Okay, so when I first became an adult, I just thought that was like the cool thing to do because my mom used to buy everybody a Christmas present. It wasn't just me and my sister, her parents, my dad. My mom had, 5 brothers? All the brothers got Christmas gifts. The neighbor down the street got Christmas gifts. Everybody got Christmas gifts. And so when I first became an adult, I thought that was cool and okay. And the thing to do was to be buying a whole bunch of Christmas presents. Now, thank God I matured. And by the time we got together, I had changed and shifted my mindset. But that is an example of what if I would have came into the marriage talking about, however they say it, we got to buy Christmas gifts for everybody. How many nieces and nephews do you have?
I got a whole bunch.
And cousins, yeah. So let's talk about that.
Family. So, you said it right though with that whole thing about two different backgrounds, two different lives, two different upbringings.
Yes.
And trying to bring it together and merge it together, that's difficult in itself. So you definitely got to be in alignment and talking about how do you feel about this, and this is how my background was. This is what I observed. And, how do you feel about that? And get on the same page because, it's it can be a difficult thing when you're not. But it can be a wonderful thing when you are. So, it's definitely important.
Absolutely.
I can't really say too much about what I observed growing up as far as financially because I don't even remember. I don't know.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
I don't know. I was just living. I don't know.
Oh, man. Well, listen,
around.
This is another thing that we have to bring to the table to share with people because we're also a blended family.
Yes.
And, that brings on a whole different dynamic, whether people realize it or not, because we have a blended family where all of our children aren't in the same house. We are in communication with our children's other biological parents. And that can even have an impact on, believe it or not, how you think about finances because there's a different influence. My daughter, for example, her father, and I joke and I say my husband is cheap, but he's cheap in a certain way. It's not relative to our family. My daughter's father is like super, super, super cheap to the point where when she's with him, he'd be asking her if she has money to pay for stuff, right? So that is a certain mindset that is being infiltrated, into our system and how we do things in our household. Because now, you have my daughter who has a certain purview of finances, because she's also being influenced by her father. So the bottom line is alignment between the two individuals as it relates to finances is critical.
I agree.
And so the third thing that I want to bring up and bring to the table for discussion is having a financial vision and strategy. And I know you about to go off with this one, so I'm going to let you talk first.
I'm gonna go off on this.
AWFF.
All right. No, but no, you're right. You're right. Financial strategy and vision is definitely key. If you don't have a vision, then you don't know where you're going. So it's important to, after you establish that communication, after you get an alignment that you're on the same page, now you got to have a vision and you got to have goals. All right, because you're going somewhere, or you should be going somewhere with your finances. A lot of times they say, you don't know where your money's going because you don't have a plan for it. You don't have a vision for it. So you definitely got to have a vision. You got to have a strategy when it comes to relationships and with money, because see, you know me, I'm a pastor, so I connect everything back biblically. And the Bible talks about, if you don't, have a vision, then people perish. Now, what that actually means is where there's no vision, the people don't have any restraint. So in essence, what it means is, if you don't have a vision when it comes to your finances, then you don't have any restraint.
That's good.
You don't have any barriers. You don't have anything to keep you in a particular place so you can get to where you're going. There's no direction. There's no guidance. So you definitely need to have a vision. You definitely need to have a strategy and be on the same page, going back to alignment, because if there's no vision, the people have no direction, no guidance. Your finances have no direction, no guidance. But then you got to be careful of, if there's not one vision, then you have division. You have division. And so, of course, where there is division, a house that's divided against itself cannot stand. So your finances ain't going to be able to stand when you are divided. And not only division or division, die vision. The vision dies. You ain't got no vision.
Goodness, Lord,
so the finances
mercy.
die.
Lord,
so you
have
definitely
mercy.
got to have a strategy. You got to have, they talk about them SMART goals, those goals that you begin to set, and those that are measurable and different things like that, so you can track, because you want to get somewhere, you want to go somewhere. And so you got to have vision. You got to be able to see yourself in the future, or see your finances in the future. Because if you don't, then you'll just end up anywhere and be wondering why you still in the situation you was in.
Come on. You just said, first of all, you just said a whole lot. You dropped a lot of wisdom in that. And when you were speaking and you gave the interpretation or expounded upon my people perish where there's no vision, and you talked about there being a lack of restraint. And when you think about that from a financial aspect, if you don't have a vision, if you don't know where you're going financially, there's no restraint. What does that look like? That looks like me going out, or whoever going out, and just shopping. You get paid, you have money. First thing you do is you go spend it, because there's no vision.
No restraint.
No restraint. When you have a vision of, we want to be financially free, like from probably the very beginning of our relationship, we both were saying we want to be full-time in ministry.
Right.
Want to be full-time in ministry. We want to own our own time. We want to be able to do whatever it is that we want to do. That was a vision. In order for us to be able to do that, which as we sit here today, we own our own time. Neither one of us work for anyone. My husband, I believe it's been 2 years since you've been off of a clocking into a job. Yes. And January the 3rd was my last day on my job, but we had a vision. If we didn't have a vision, I would have been doing whatever, because we made the money to be able to do whatever we wanted to do. But because we had a vision and we knew that it was our goal and desire to not work for anyone, then that meant that we had to have a strategy.
Yes.
We were saving. We were investing in certain things. We were making sure we didn't have debt. We had a vision and we had a strategy that we put in place. And that with that came restraint.
Yes. Can I say this?
Yes.
Because see, this just came to me. See, your vision and your strategy, follow me with this, in essence, gives your finances an identity. Because if you don't have that vision and strategy, like we talk about, no restraint, no guidance, it gives your finances an identity, meaning that now you can see what it looks like. Because like you said, if you ain't got no restraint, you ain't got a vision, what does that look like? That looks like you living beyond your means.
Come on, come on.
That looks like you trying to keep up with everybody else. That looks like you robbing Peter to pay Paul, as they say. But when you have a strategy, when you have a vision, in essence, you begin to give your finances identity, meaning that now it's recognizable where I want to be and where I want to go. So I can look at my life at a certain point and say, either this is where I want to be because I recognize it, or this is not where I want to be. Hopefully I will be where I want to be because I gave my finances an identity.
Yes.
So when I get to that point in the future, I recognize that this is what my finances is supposed to look like. All right? Because you've given it an identity.
Oh my goodness.
You over there looking.
I know. I'm over here because that is so good. And it's so good that I want to stay there, but I know that we're operating, we want to make sure that we get everything in today. We are definitely going to have to come back and talk specifically about vision and strategy as couples as it relates to finances, because it's just so fundamental. Having a vision and a strategy, period, for your relationship and for your marriage should be foundational, period, point blank. And then your financial vision and strategy should be a part of that. I think sometimes people think things like that, oh, you're doing too much. It's not that serious. It doesn't take all of that. But it really does.
It takes all that and some.
It does. I mean, you brought the Bible in there, write the vision and make it plain. That should be for every area and aspect of your life.
Yes.
And so with that, the other thing that I believe couples need to do, and it's very much connected to the vision and strategy piece, is accountability. Having accountability.
Yes, it's definitely connected, because when you have that financial vision and strategy, that keeps you, that's what you're accountable to. That gives you something to be accountable to. You have no vision, you have no goals, you have no strategy. What are you accountable to? All right. But that vision, that strategy gives you something to be accountable to. It holds you to something. And you got to have enough restraint, and you got to honor what you have set in place enough to be accountable to it. And then in a relationship, we got to be accountable to each other, because we're in alignment. We've been communicating. We have now set our vision and our strategy and our goals. And so now we've got to be accountable to those goals and that vision, that strategy, and then to each other. So when I want to go do such and such and this and that, then you should be able to say to me, well, babe, does that align with our vision? Is that going to help us meet the identity of the finances that we are trying to create? Or should we do something different? And I should be able to do the same thing, vice versa, because ultimately we're trying to get somewhere. Where we are right now is not where we want to be. And so we've got to be accountable to what we set in place and be disciplined and then be consistent with it. And sometimes, you got to sacrifice in the moment. I just heard something in my spirit. You got to sacrifice in the moment so you can celebrate later.
Yes.
You sacrifice now to celebrate later. You sacrifice now so you can enjoy the fruits of your labor in the future. I know that's your scripture.
That's my scripture. That's one of my favorite scriptures. Yes. And, I want to bring out this point. Contrary to popular belief, accountability still needs to be in play, regardless of if your finances are together. I understand that different relationships do different things. You have to do what works for your relationships. And when I say if your finances are together, meaning that there are some people who have separate bank accounts, and they basically manage their finances separately. We don't do that. That's our choice because that's not what works for our household. What works for us is for us to have our finances together, but everybody doesn't do that. That does not negate the fact that you still need to be accountable to one another and accountable to the vision. Because even if you have this position of, I have my own bank account, I make my own money, there still should be one vision.
Right.
There still should be one strategy.
Correct.
And so whatever decisions you make, even though that's your money, needs to be in alignment with what you all's financial vision and strategy are.
I agree. Definitely. You've got to be able to, if I say, okay, I have my own money, you got your own money, that means that, yes, you have the option to do certain things that you may want to do. But if we have a vision, that means a portion of your money, a portion of my money should be accountable to that vision.
Absolutely.
Because if we're going to keep everything separate, now I might be stepping on some toes. If we're going to keep everything separate, why are we together?
Come on.
Anyway, I don't want to go. I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. But marriage, not saying that there cannot be, each person having their own aspects or keeping a certain aspect of their own identity. But marriage is coming together and becoming one, coming together and being unified. So even if you do have your own finances, I got my own finances, there should still be a portion of that we're bringing together to reach our overall vision and goal that we have for the finances that we want to accumulate and create in the future.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to make this plug, and I don't have a problem going against the grain. That is what I do. Regardless, if you decide to have your finances separate, and you decide to have separate accounts, there is at least one account that you should have jointly together with your spouse. You don't have to have everything together. Again, me and my husband, we have chosen to put everything together because I believe that you can do more together than you can do separately. That's how we roll. But understanding that everybody doesn't roll like that, you should still have at least one account together to basically support the vision and the strategy that you have come together. And so you talked about communication in the beginning, but the communication can't stop there. You have to communicate regularly in the marriage about finances.
Yeah, and that's what we do. We try to set aside time to where amongst a lot of our conversations, because we talk about a lot of different things and a lot of different ventures that we work on together. Within that, we also talk about the finances. And so we definitely got to, you definitely have to communicate and come back to the table, because as we talked about goals, you got to measure those goals. If you don't have goals that are measurable, then you don't know how far along you've come or how far away you are. And so definitely continuing communication is definitely key. And so you definitely have to do that, because you've gotta be word. Let me say it like this: words are creators, right? In the beginning, here I go with the Bible. In the beginning was the Word. So God started everything with words, and for the sake of this conversation, communication. All right. So even when it comes to your overall relationship, not only just the finances, there has to be communication and clear communication and continual communication, because words begin to build. Words are like structures. The worlds were framed by the word of God, and they remain. Let me stop right there. I don't want to go off into a whole Bible tangent.
This brother ready to preach. He ready to preach a whole message. But you're so right, though. Communication, it has to be constant. It has to be continual, because like you said, you have to have goals. You need to check in to see if you are on par with the goals. Do you need to make any adjustments? I mean, again, I just walked away from my corporate job, very lucrative salary, to be a full-time entrepreneur, to work in the ministry full-time, we had to have a conversation about that. Yeah. I couldn't just, pop up and be like, oh, I'm quitting my job. And the same thing when 2 years ago you left your position. Like, there was discussions that had to be had, and, we had set certain goals. We had to ensure that, we had a certain amount of income coming in, and we've had to have conversations about, what's happening with the money. I like to go travel all over the place, and I'm going to fly first class.
Yes, first class.
We had to have discussion about, is this feasible for us and our goals? Are there any other adjustments and tweaks that need to be made to accommodate this desire or requirement? It's not a desire, it's a requirement that I have. But those were conversations, and we continue to communicate about those things regularly. And all of this, I'm going to just throw out the last one, and then, we can keep on talking about this because all of these actually work together, which is the last one, work together. As it relates to the finances, when you are in a relationship, you have to work together. And working together isn't necessarily about both individuals working. It can encompass that, but it's not about that. It's about two people having one vision, coming together, being in alignment, and understanding what their role, what their part is, and making that vision come to pass, and the two becoming one and working together. How can two walk together? Since you want to quote scripture, how can two walk together?
Except they be agreed. Come on. That's good. That's good. No, because you're right, though. And working together has to fit the dynamics of your particular relationship.
That's right.
Because every relationship is different. And so, but you've got to be able to work together, and however that is. And going back to the last thing you were talking about, you said that key word. I think a key word is adjustments.
Yes.
As adjustments. And so even when working together, you got to know how to adjust. Because again, you got a vision. You got something that you are trying to obtain. And so in the process of trying to obtain that, there's adjustments that need to be made. How you're working together. Maybe one was doing one thing and now the other needs to do this thing or that thing, or making the adjustments in your vision and your strategy to get to where you want to be. And it all has to deal with this working together. So if we're communicating, because here we go again, if we're communicating, we have our vision, all right, and there's something that needs to be adjusted or something that needs to be done, I might have to say, sweetie, this is what we talked about before, but this is what I think we need to do. And I think I want to also start maybe doing this or that, because it's going to help us get to the goal. And so that's working together. That's communicating. That's being, having this ability to adjust on the go. And so all of these things actually work together. And I think that they are very key. They are very important and critical, but especially like you said, working together. That goes back to alignment. Goes back to being on the same page. It goes back to just that communication and knowing how each other sees things when it comes to your finances.
Absolutely. And so, this was a very timely discussion, and, we want to be very open about our experiences and share our wisdom and what we've come to learn as we've gone through this journey of being married, as I said, for almost a decade, and working together to build a legacy. As I shared earlier, we're both full-time entrepreneurs in ministry. We own our own time. And that took us, first of all, from the very beginning. Knowing what each other's goals were, where we both stood financially. And when I say that, I'm not saying that you all have to have it all together financially in the beginning, because neither one of us did in the beginning. But we both had goals. We both had a desire. We both had the discipline, and we were willing to be intentional about doing
That's
what we
good.
needed to do.
Intentional is good too.
Yes, we were very intentional about doing what we needed to do. And so before we close out today, Pastor, sweetie, husband, BFF, are there any final words that you want to share with us?
I like the word that you just used about intentional, about being intentional, and then also about you letting people know that you don't have to have it all together right now. You don't have to have it all together. That's the point. Actually, that's the point of having a vision, because you're seeing something in the future that you don't necessarily have right now. And actually that brings home the importance of having that vision, because even what if you don't have it right now? It's okay, you probably don't. That's why you have the vision. So you know where you're going. And even if you do, quote unquote, have it together right now, I'm pretty sure there's someplace else you want to go. There's a new level you want to go to. And so that shows the importance of the vision. And when you're in a relationship, you're only going to get to that vision when you're working together, when you're communicating, when you're on the same page and alignment, and you're accountable and intentional. I like that word, about what you're doing.
Thank you so much, sweetie, for joining me today and for sharing your wisdom and being open. And I would like to thank all of you for tuning in today. And as I close out, I'm going to say what I always say, and that is there is no shortage of wealth, no shortage of resources here in the planet Earth. The issue is education, information, and awareness. And I'm just here to help ensure that you get all the information, education that you need so that you can live a prosperous and wealthy life.